Over the weekend, I was exploring different AI models for a particular use case. Now, something fascinating came up, and I want to share it with you guys, which I thought was very interesting. You know, there is the GPT-4o, GPT-4o Mini, the Turbo. You go down to Claude, Opus, Sonnet, Flash, and the Pro from Gemini. Which model should you use for your use case? I think trying to pick a model for the use case is becoming an art in itself. I'll share what I found, which I thought was very fascinating and enlightening. If you haven't followed on Medium, I'm going to be putting great content out on Medium. Do follow on Medium, like, follow, clap, or whatever you can do. Links in the description below. Now, here is a scenario we have. We're going to compare this across all the models to show that not every model is created equally depending on your use case. It really comes down to what your use case is. Here is the very first example to zero in on. A user places a strawberry in a cup. This is going to require some complex multi-step reasoning and thinking. You would hopefully see how different these models can be depending on your use case. A user places a strawberry in a cup. The cup is placed on the table upside down for 2 seconds. Then the user picks up the cup and places it in the refrigerator. Where is the strawberry? Now, most people reading this will exactly know what the answer is. But let's see how these models behave. We're going to compare this starting with GPT-4o, Claude, Gemini, and Perplexity, just for the sake of it. So starting with GPT-4o, with GPT, you can do the 4o, you can do the O1 preview, you can do the O1 mini, and you can do the canvas. So starting with 4o, which is what most people will have access to. Now, just for the sake of it, I do have 4o preview because it's a paid version. I have the paid version of GPT. And same thing with Claude. I have the paid version, same thing with Gemini. So my view might be a little bit different, but I think the intuition should still be very clear. So let's start with 4o and put in that question. A user places a strawberry in a cup. Let's see what 4o gives us. Now, it comes up with a very quick answer. The strawberry will be inside the cup. The strawberry is still inside the cup. From intuition, we know this is not correct, right? You put a strawberry in the cup, you turn the cup upside down on the table. Where's the strawberry going to be? It should be on the table. Now you pick up the cup. We didn't talk about picking up the strawberry. And so that strawberry will be on the table while the cup will be in the fridge. By looking at this, the answer isn't correct. Now, here is what's interesting. Let's switch over to do the 4o, the O1 preview. And this is where reasoning starts coming into play. All right, so now we're using a different model here. I'm going to put the same question with a different model. And before we hit submit, let's note that there wasn't any reasoning. It just gave us the answer, right? And you see the difference here as we've switched the models. So go ahead and execute that. Now it's thinking, ensuring the strawberry, evaluating the response, evaluating the placement. It's going through the chain of thought. It's actually thinking. It's not just trying to answer the question based on the language you've provided. It's been thinking for 7 seconds. Now it says, apologies for the oversight from my previous response. It says, therefore, the strawberry is on the table, not the refrigerator. That is the difference on a model that actually reasons and goes through the steps of thinking, because you got to think through where the strawberry is to get to an answer. You're talking about knowledge and understanding. And this is what these models are promising us. Hopefully this gives you some clarity on that. It really comes down to your use case. For many use cases, 4o would just be fine. If you're trying to write an email copy to your clients or format a text, you really don't need reasoning and the power that comes with that, right? You can do it for the most part with 4o or even previous models. But when we start talking about reasoning, hopefully you can see that these models are not created equal. Let's switch from GPT ecosystem over to the Claude ecosystem. Claude, I use a professional plan. Depending on your settings, yours might be different. Go ahead, paste the same question. For this, I will not use the Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Let's use something older for everyday tasks. Let's use the Haiku. Haiku is a little bit old. Opus is better, but let's use a Haiku for now. Prompt that it says the strawberry is in the cup, which is now in the refrigerator. You can see with the older models, it's not correct because we know the strawberry cannot be in the cup. Now let's put the same prompt. I'm going to switch from Haiku to Sonnet, which is the newer model. And here it says the most intelligent model. So the same question now using the most intelligent model. And here is going through the chain of thought. Let me think through the steps. The initial state, strawberry is placed in the cup. Cup is turned upside down. Due to gravity, it's now inferring, it's bringing in gravity. This is reasoning. This happens, therefore the cup is moved to the refrigerator. Now the cup is empty, placed in the refrigerator, therefore strawberry is in the table since it fell out when the cup was turned upside down. This is what we want. You're thinking about reasoning, chain of thought. And different models will give you different responses based on that. Let's switch over to Gemini and see how Gemini will perform. Now, again, I have the Gemini Advanced. Let's start with the Flash. I haven't played with Gemini that much, but let's see how it performs on this question. Looking at Gemini Flash, which should be what everybody has, it gives us the wrong answer. It's so confident that it's almost laughable, right? It just says the strawberries in the cup, which is in the refrigerator. I love the confidence for this one, to be honest. But that's not correct. Let's switch and see with the advanced and see what this gives us with the same reasoning question. Again, unfortunately, and this is why sometimes people will make comments like Gemini is a little bit behind in this AI space because of things like this, right? You would expect that advanced, and I pay for the advanced, that he should answer the question. It still says the strawberry is in the cup, but we know it's not in the cup, right? Here, cup flips, turning the cup upside down for 2 seconds doesn't give the strawberry enough time to fall out. Oh, I did not expect that. This is actually an insightful observation. So let me see if we change that from 2 seconds. Maybe 2 seconds is fast, but if I do 10 seconds, would it pick it up then? We're just doing this now. Wow. You see, it did pick up. So maybe Gemini might be more intelligent than the others because it's looking at the situation I did not even consider when I put in the 2 seconds. Because I imagine 2 seconds turning the cup upside down, most things would just fall unless the strawberry was glued to the cup. I did not even mention if the cup was empty, right? Maybe there was some type of liquid in the cup that the strawberry sank, and when you flip it for 2 seconds, there wasn't enough time for it to permeate through that liquid for it to come to the top. Wow, that's interesting. That is interesting. Let's switch. Honestly, this kind of threw my script off because I thought Gemini would just fail, but there you go. And I'm going to share the video just like this. That's the observation. Let's switch over to Perplexity, which to me is an abstraction behind or on top of some of the models you might use. Most people use Perplexity for the real-time internet access. Let's see what it gives us. By the way, I don't have Pro for Perplexity, so I can use their Pro version. With the version everybody has, here it says strawberries inside the cup, which is not correct. I imagine maybe if I went to Perplexity Pro, I don't know if that will make a difference. I think Perplexity is really more for internet search and the power that comes with that to real-time knowledge access as opposed to the reasoning model. My understanding is Perplexity uses GPT underneath, but I might be wrong. Hopefully this gives you some intuition on how different these models can be. I was going down a different path when thinking about this from a reasoning perspective. You might think about building, say, an agent that has to think, infer, make decisions, and then take actions. In that case, if you're going agentic, you really want reasoning, higher order thinking, very powerful decision-making abilities, and not just what the previous models would give us, which was just taking text and playing with it and giving you some responses, which is useful, but it has its use cases. Let's switch back. Before we wrap up the video, you might say, but putting strawberry in a cup is such an abstract scenario. Most people don't have to think like that. We should just know that. Why are you asking that to a model? Now imagine you run a business, and here is an example of things where models, as we go on this journey, could start helping. I'll read the challenge here. It's meant for illustration. An entrepreneur named Sarah is developing a cutting-edge medical device in a highly regulated industry. The device has undergone preliminary tests and hasn't fully passed all stringent regulatory standards required for market approval. Despite this, there is a major healthcare conference coming in 2 weeks where launching the device could secure substantial investment and give a company a significant competitive edge. Launching now could bring in immediate revenue and market visibility, but waiting an estimated 6 months to address the quality issues will ensure full compliance with regulations. What should Sarah do, right? Or Sarah do? So here is something where MBA students will struggle with, and people in business and executive rooms needing multi-step reasoning, higher order thinking, paid high top dollar to figure out. And the reality is the models are potentially coming for the job. Replace this with a doctor that needs to make decisions based on the pathology of a patient. Replace this with a legal client that needs to make decisions based on a case. Replace this with a city council that needs to make decisions based on environmental considerations in their locality. The problem is limitless. So if we take the same types of questions and throw that into, say, OpenAI, you really would want to pick the right model for this, because just using your everyday GPT-4 might not suffice. Understanding the problem and what model is relevant becomes key. In certain cases, if I'm trying to format my text, I might use a cheap model like GPT-4 Legacy. But if I'm trying to solve a complex challenge, I might have a workflow that integrates with O1 Preview, Omni Preview, and should hopefully answer that question. So let's see what it does. It's analyzing, mapping a policy, analyzing options, balancing immediate gains, weighing the options. Again, this is full hardcore reasoning. I'm trying this in real time. So what would it say? Wow, there you go. Most people would imagine that Sarah should not proceed with full market launch. The risks associated with non-compliance, including legal repercussions, potential harm to patients, long-term damage to the reputation, outweighs immediate benefits to launching early. That's reasoning right there. And I think it gives an answer that most reasonable people would say this is the correct answer. Let's go down to GPT-4o, which is what most people would use in their task. I'm curious what this will come back with. It doesn't spend as much time reasoning, that's for sure. That's a very powerful observation. And it still comes back with the reasonable answer Sarah should avoid premature launch. I'm sure if you do the same thing with the other models, the results would be very similar. Because Gemini took a different dimension to this, I'm very curious what they would come out from this. This is the Gemini Advanced. And it's fast too. I think just subjectively, the results seems fast. So it says this is a classic demeanor for the entrepreneur. Cons recommendation in the medical device field, where patient safety is paramount, erring on the side of caution usually is the best approach. Sarah should wait 6 months. I think any reasonable person would say that too. Let's go over to Perplexity and try that. Again, Perplexity to me is a search engine more so than a reasoning engine. But it's doing some reasoning here. Recommendation, Sarah should wait, right? Any reasonable person looking at this would say, hey, just wait, let's try Claude. And I want to try Claude, not with Sonnet. I want to see what Heku would say. It's analyzing. Oh, it says there is a valid argument for both sides. Ultimately, I believe Sarah should on the side of regulatory compliance. So at least it's reasonable there. So there you have it. There are so many models out there. It could get very overwhelming, but hopefully this gives you some intuition, especially with reasoning coming. And you're wondering, why is this such a big deal? Well, for reasons like this, where problems are not always well defined. The problem space is very big. This is beyond basic text formatting or generation. We're talking about reasoning and higher order thinking, that having the right model for the specific situation become powerful. And it might be a case where smaller models for basic string formatting are used very early on to process your data. In the cases where you need your higher order thinking, you bring in a powerful model, then send the results back to smaller models. So you have this army of models working, which is what the agentic future might potentially look like. Or it might just be one agent that gets really cheap and can answer every question in a cost-effective manner. But right now, most people balance cost in addition to the effectiveness of those models. Hopefully this gives you an intuition or some ideas of it. Now we're talking about text here, and extrapolate this to physics, extrapolate this to mathematics, and the real world where thinking becomes key. You can see why the models really make a big difference. Hopefully this was helpful. As always, like, share, subscribe. This has been Fro here with Demohub. I'll see you in the next demo.